Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares, plus a couple of guest stars from the Rock Fantasy Files. Before I introduce everybody, tonight's topic, once again, we're looking back on 1982, a great year of music, but a really good year in metal. We're doing these album wars once again, pitting two really strong albums from 1982 against each other. Everybody here is going to vote for their favorite of these two. And we're talking about Venom's Black Metal and Iron Fist by Motorhead. And introducing the cast we've got tonight from the Rock Fantasy Files, we got Count Ralphus. Ralph is in the house. We've got John McEntee, leader of Incantation. We've got Steve Keeler. We've got Nick Franco, Chris Allo, Sydney Taylor, Chris Canzaneri, Ryan Scow, and Spaghetti Lee. Don't call him Joey. What's going on, everybody? How are you?
What's up, Pete?
Great. What's up?
Great.
Hello.
Everybody ready to talk about two really cool, loud, and obnoxious albums today? And cool.
Mhm.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to let our two guests from the Rock Fantasy Files go first. So we're going to go Ralph. We're going to go John, then we're going to go Steve, then we're going to go Nick, Chris, Sydney, Chris, Ryan, Spaghetti, and myself. And everybody say what you like about each album, maybe what you don't like, but you got to pick a winner. So while you're at it, rate both albums on a scale of 0 to 5, 5 being absolutely amazing. So Ralph, Black Metal or Iron Fist?
Thanks for having me. So we're doing both of them at the same time.
Yep.
Okay. So these are both such important albums. They're both true originals, these bands. And I talk about Motorhead first. I got this original old 7-inch, and when they were recording this album, they already had this tour book. Back then they put the dates on. This came out right before the Iron Fist album came out. And so they talk about, like in this book, about Motorhead in the studio. It goes into depth about how they were kind of rushing to get it done and everything because they already had this tour book and the record label wanted them to be able to promote it on tour. And 4 years before they had the title Iron Fist, they had to bill themselves one time live as Iron Fist and the Hordes from Hell. And that was in 78. So they had that name Iron Fist way back then. This was put out by Cleopatra Records. And this recently came out, has a couple songs on a 7-inch from that when they were Iron Fist and the Hordes from Hell. But yeah, so the title track is my favorite song on Iron Fist. I mean, even though it has the same bass drum as Ace of Spades, that video when it came out on MTV back in the day was like the first time we ever seen like thrash metal on MTV. So that's my favorite song. But a couple other standouts. I love Heart of Stone, Go to Hell, Speed Freak, Don't Need Religion, Go to Hell and Don't Need Religion. They sound like titles that could have been on black metal. And Don't Let Me Grind You Down. Let Me Hate It, the album cover, but I think it's great. I love the album cover, and it still has Snaggletooth in there. When you look close enough. I got the original vinyl behind me here, but so yeah, if I had to rate it, you rated it at 4. I rated a 4 out of 5. And then to talk about Venom, they had some 7-inches too that came out right around the same time. Bloodlust is one of my favorite songs on black metal. And Die Hard, which also had was on the back of this one. I love Buried Alive. It's such a classic song on here with the atmosphere, with the shoveling the dirt onto the coffin. And I love how it goes right into Raise the Dead. It's almost like part 2 to the song. And if you go down into the album a little bit more, Leave Me in Hell almost seems like it would be part of like a trilogy of a concept that they had going there. But Countess Bathory, Sacrifice, The Humor of Teacher's Pet is a great song. But I give this album a perfect 5 because the first 2 Venom albums are just untouchable to me. And if I had to pick, like Motorhead, I like their discography. I think it blows away Venom's, but when it comes to those first 2 Venom albums, there's really no topping it. So I got to give Venom the win.
All right,
Cool.
One for Venom. Thanks, Ralph. John, how about you?
Okay. Yeah, this was a hard one for me. These are both really important albums for me. I mean, I guess I'll go with Iron Fist first. I mean, that's one of my first albums I think probably bought for Motorhead. Actually, I have the version right here. And I was looking at it, checking it out, listening to it. And I realized I bought it at J&R Music in New York for like $5.99 back in the day.
Wow.
It's like, holy crap, I mean, I remember I used to love going there because you'd be able to get like almost all the albums for $5.99, but that wasn't, I mean, it's only like,
Such
yeah.
a great store.
Yes, it was the one in Manhattan. It was like kind of downtown or whatever. Yeah.
My father worked a block away, so whenever I would go visit him at work, we always went there.
Yeah, it was. I remember when I was really young, like 13 years old or something, and it was like a dream come true to go to that store. Actually, that's where I got my Motorhead leather album for No Remorse 2 over there. They had it. I just couldn't, anything you wanted at that time, you seemed like you could find it there. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Iron Fist, was probably my first. It's either, well, I want to say it was my first or the second. I can't remember exactly, but I think Iron Fist is a good album. I mean, all the songs on it, I think are good Motorhead songs, but I think what Ralph said is they were a little rushed on it. I just think it doesn't quite have the oomph throughout the album as some of the previous ones before. It does seem a little more rushed. I still like all the songs, and I think it's a really good album, but it's just not the top for me. It's probably closer to, I would say, besides Iron Fist, which is an amazing song, which is kind of, like Ralph also said, was kind of just like Ace of Spades, almost a same kind of vibe of a song, which is a great song to have as, another great opener. But overall, it's a little bit of a, the vocals doesn't sound as punchy as Lemmy usually sounds, I think, on an album. I think the sound of the songs, it just seems like it's a little bit not as rough, as pissed off or something. Something seems as maybe the production is not quite as good as, say, the previous ones, or not quite as raw, I guess. I'm not really sure, but it hits me in a way that I was a little bit was let down when I heard it originally. Like, I've heard Motorhead and I heard how aggressive it was. It started with Iron Fist, and then it seems like it's kind of a little bit mellower of it. I don't know if mellow is the right word, but a little bit. It just wasn't Ace of Spades or Bomber or anything like that. With those albums, I think, are just a little more lively sounding. But I do love the album at the same time. I mean, we're talking about 2 albums that are super. I'm a super big fan of. I'm just trying to find, trying to criticize it properly. When it comes to Venom's Black Metal, I think that album is a total winner. I mean, almost everything on it is just Venom at its best. I mean, for me, the first 3 Venom albums are priceless. And, when I listen to them back to back, Venom's Black Metal just has so many important songs for Venom on that album. Just you listen to the whole thing, and all those songs are just like classics. And if you like Venom and you like that rough style of, kind of messy black metal or whatever, it's just a catchy, it's a perfect album. So I'd have to go with Black Metal as the winner of that. But yeah, I kind of agree with Ralph, where I think the Motorhead discography is better than the Venom discography, but there's a lot more to pick from Motorhead too, discography wise. But I don't know if I had to give Black Metal 1 to 5. I'd give it a, I don't know. I'd give it like a 4, I guess. four and a half. I'll go with 4.5. I really like the album. And if we're Iron Fist, I'd have to go with like a 3, I think. I think it's a, you know, yeah, like I said, compared to other Motorhead albums, it's not to me, it's not as good. I rather if I realized after, when asked to do this show that I haven't picked up this album, listened to all the way through, and it must have been over 25 years or more since I actually picked up this album, listened to it all the way through. So it really didn't make a mark on me. Like if I want to hear Iron Fist, I just listen to Iron Fist, or I have that on something. So, and I listen to all the other not all the other Motorhead albums, but I listen to I like Sacrifice a lot. I listen to that all the time, or Ace of Spades or Bomber, or just any, a lot of those I listen to a lot, but this one I just realized I haven't listened to that much. So yeah, I give it a 3. I know it's hard to say because I love Motorhead and Lemmy's God, but that's my.
All right.
That's what I think.
2 for Venom. 0 for
and I love F. Eddie Clark too. He's the man. I hate the fact that I have to put it that low on the list,
And he produced this album actually. So a lot of people talk about, the production of this album, and it's not quite what the first couple were, and maybe that has a lot to do with it. So
yeah, and he left right after this album too, right? Because the next one was with
Brian Robertson.
What's his name? Yeah, Robertson. Yeah.
All right, Steve.
Hey. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for letting the Rock Fantasy Files invade again on a Monday night, and
thanks.
all that good stuff. And I was listening. I agree with John on Iron Fist. I don't think it's been 25 years since I've listened to it, but it's been a while since I've listened to that album. And of course, I listened to it a few times between last week and now. And Motorhead, of course, it was a great album. I was introduced to Motorhead with Ace of Spades and was really into this album when it came out and loved it. But I would say songs I like from it the most are Shut It Down, Speed Freak, Go to Hell, and the title track, of course, which we've all talked about. But I'm going with Venom for the win tonight, simply because it has the song Countess Bathory on it.
Yeah.
It has Buried Alive on it, and it has Raise the Dead on it, and it has the title track on it. Do I need to go on it?
Like all the staples.
All the staples are on it, and it sounds great. I hadn't listened to this album in a while either, maybe since we were talking about Venom on our channel earlier last year. And we talked about Welcome to Hell last week, and tell you, the Motorhead's got a better catalog. I agree with everyone on that, and probably have better music if you compare the whole catalog, of course. But these first couple Venom albums, I think they were groundbreaking. They started a whole new genre, and nothing against Motorhead, but I'm going with Venom for victory tonight.
All righty. 3-0.
And wow, the Steve Keeler sounds great. It's like
What's
he's
that?
like real and in person.
I sound better.
You sound great.
I got a
better.
microphone now. I wasn't just
It's
relying
good.
on
Mike's great.
laptop. Oh, and I got
Mike's
one more
sound
thing to add. I posted a question on my social media, and I didn't count both of them, but I counted, and I'm getting about 28 votes for Venom and about 16 for Motorhead, roughly. So just so the viewers were, they're cashing in, because I was like, I put it up. Hey, I'm listening to Motorhead. I got to pick one, and got some feedback from that too. So
Cool.
fun. It's a fun series, fun episodes, Pete.
Yeah. The album War thing always goes over really well. So
Thanks for having me, but I'm going to pop off before everybody goes off because I'm betting on the playoffs tonight.
Okay.
Woo!
Cool.
All in on the
Good luck.
sport.
Good luck.
I'll hang out a little bit with you.
Okay. Cool. All right, Mr. Franco.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Yeah, this is a very cool show. A very cool idea. Yeah, so Motorhead and Venom. Wow. I mean, I was thinking about it, listening to both of them, catching up again. And, the truth is that 3/4 of the albums I have in this room and the art on the walls and all the shirts and everything, I wore old Samael here. 3/4 of what I love wouldn't exist without black metal, without Venom. I think in 1982, because I was looking at around at metal, and I know the Merciful Fate demos and EP had just been coming out around this time, and obviously Venom has their first album, but there's not a lot out there at this time that was doing what Venom was doing with the pentagram and the evil and the occult references and the satanic stuff. And obviously you throw a song like Teacher's Pet in, which is a great song. I don't know how. I think one of the reasons black metal got to where it is in like the early 90s and all that stuff was that there were kids in other parts of the world that took this stuff very seriously, even if Venom wasn't necessarily taking it seriously in terms of like the belief behind the lyrics. But the other aspect of Venom is that you listen to black metal and you just hear this like immediate punk, like really, really in your face, rebellious stuff. And I was realizing that, Fast Eddie is probably has more talent in his pinky than, no offense to, these guys, Kronos, Abad, and Mantis, these guys are phenomenal, but they weren't trying to win a Guitar Hero fucking thing. They were making this really, really rebellious fucking noise that must have shattered people. Like, I think, didn't they get panned when this stuff came out? Isn't there this general sense that like Venom and Hellhammer and like were at Celtic Frost?
Critics hated them.
Yeah, and that's how sometimes it's something's good. Like I know Sodom they hated. So just the dirty rawness of Venom was what do you call it? Iron Fist is definitely not as raunchy and raucous, even though I think overall Motorhead and Lemmy's impact on what it means to be rebellious and into rock is far greater because of their staying power. But the playing is probably technically better on Iron Fist, but that's not what this is about. Venom was just about a fist in your fucking face. And to this day, you play Countess Bathory, the beginning of that song, I'm ready to smash through walls like I usually am. And then a million years later, it's just as incredibly rough and raw. So I love obviously the title track, Raise the Dead, Teacher's Pet, Don't Burn the Witch. But Countess Bathory is my favorite song off of it. I think it's a 5. I think it's perfection because of the impact that it made and the fact that, and I think right, Ryan, we were hearing from through the grapevine there from Mr. Mantis there that, they probably could not have recreated that if they tried. So it just was such a moment in time, and it's
lightning in a bottle for sure.
Yeah. It spawned thing I love. This dark black metal stuff that I love. So I'm going to give the nod obviously to Venom and give them a 5. And I'm going to give that Motorhead like a solid 3.5. Iron Fist is clearly the best song, but Don't Need Religion is just such a cool, bluesy. They're more bluesy, they're Motorhead, and it's amazing, but I'll give it a nice 3.5. But Venom, I give the 5 and the nod.
All right. 4 to zip.
4 to zip.
4 to zip. Mr. Allo, are we going to have a shout out today?
Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, I pulled a Ralph. I brought some of my some Venom stuff. Apparently, I have 6 copies of black metal, but I could only find 5 of them.
Oh,
That sounds right.
Poser.
Yeah. I see Ralph's up on the wall. The Here Lies Venom box set from 1985, and this was the first one I actually bought because I had just a cassette. Somebody mentioned, I think on the Rush episode we did, Pete, like how before you could buy a record, sometimes you just had a tape, and I had a buddy tape me black metal, and then 85 I actually bought it, and this is the disc inside, and I was really pissed because it's just this shitty Xerox sleeve. So then years later, I did have to buy an actual LP of black metal, and that's the one I couldn't find. I got it somewhere. But then I also bought the original Combat CD. Then I had to get the double disc from Neat Records, which has like a whole bunch of bonus tracks and a slip cover, I think. And then I had to get the double disc that had a DVD with the Seventh Date of Hell live at Hammersmith. I think it was last year. I got this is why I'm wearing the gloves, because this thing was super expensive. I got the very expensive what's this one called? 40 Years in Sodom vinyl box set from Venom, and it had
I like the
Why
glove.
you were wearing the gloves? I'm like, what are you doing? Working in a
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
yeah.
What it is? What is that?
It cost me like $400 from fucking Germany. I'm like, I am totally not touching this thing with real naked hands.
Oh, so
This
you're
is-
not wearing these gloves because of the COVID infection in the house. You're
No.
wearing them to protect the Venom records.
I don't want to get shit all over my Venom records.
He's in the
Heard
middle
of
of
it.
murdering somebody.
Heard of
Like,
you.
Fuck, and
Like-
pre-order
it's like
this
Dexter.
thing. Wait like
You don't
8
want those
months.
records. You don't want those records to get COVID.
I
I
didn't
wait
want to
like
say
8 months for
anything.
Kronos to sign the fucking lithograph that's in this thing, and I'm like, no way. I don't want to mess it up. Oh, and then also, I do have my my black metal action figure.
Yes, there you
I
go.
should buy another one so I can open one. But
Which one do
Like
you think
this
he
one.
chooses, guys?
yeah, oh, there we go. Yeah, see, I mean, my original, I'm a couple years behind the curve with this. I think I got both records like 84, 85. But yeah, you know, the people that I ran with back then, everybody kind of thought that black metal could be Venom's best record. And everybody also kind of thought that Iron Fist was an okay album, but it was a step down from Ace of Spades and Overkill. And I always kind of felt that way myself. I've only bought Iron Fist twice. And
Wow.
like John said, I mean, the last time I listened to it was whenever I got, I think it was Castle Records did like a reissue with some bonus tracks about like 20 years ago. And that was the last time I listened to it. And I hadn't listened to it in 20 years since today. And I was like, well, maybe it's better than I remember, but it's still not that good. I think it's a huge step down from Ace of Spades and Overkill, and black metal. I think is just a fucking masterpiece. I mean, any album that you could say like kickstarted an entire subgenre of music, which has spawned thousands upon bands all over the world. That's definitely the album that's more important. But also, just me personally, yeah, I think every song on black metal is a fucking masterpiece. And when I picked up the album today, Iron Fist, which I left in my car, I looked at the back and I'm like, yeah, Don't Let Them Grind You Down and Go to Hell and Speed Freak. I'm like, I don't know any of these fucking songs, but I could sing for you the whole black metal record right now.
do it.
So yeah, I'm
Let's
going.
do it. Do it.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. For copyright reasons. We don't want Pete to
At
get in
least
trouble.
one song.
But yeah,
What-
so
What song?
Iron Fist, I'm giving a 2.5 out of 5. I think it's a big letdown. And yeah, if 5 is as high as I can go for black metal, then I'm going 5. And yeah, obviously my pick is black metal.
5.
I do agree with him that Iron Fist was actually better than what I thought it was, because I not listening to an album for like 25 years, and then I was like, this is really not that good of an album. I was like, oh, it's actually pretty good, but then you put on Venom, and it was just like, there's no comparison.
And Chris, when you find that other copy of Venom that you were looking for, you're gonna notice that you have 2 others that are sitting there that you totally forgot about.
Listen, I was shocked today. I found 4 copies of Possessed by Venom on vinyl.
Wow.
I'm like, I don't even
That
like
one's
that
not
record as much as the
that
first 3. Like, how the fuck did that happen?
Yeah, so
So-
that one's really not that good. I mean, it's good, but it's
Right, yeah, I agree with
It's their
John.
Iron Fist.
Yeah,
It's not
perfect analogy. It's not bad, but it's definitely their Iron Fist.
absolutely.
All right, 5-0. Sydney.
Yeah, so I mean, with me, I don't really think we're gonna break the streak that we got going here. Yeah, I agree with a lot of the things that everybody has said. I think that looking at these 2 albums, instinctively, I am a huge Motorhead fan, and so like John said, Lemmy's God, and so I sometimes feel like my loyalty to Lemmy is like in Motorhead, it's like burning within me. But this time around, I kind of really sat down and evaluated each record. And like everybody said, I think that Iron Fist is just not as strong personally, I think, and what you guys have said, you guys think this as well, than what we had seen before. And I think the difference is between where the 2 bands were at this time. also in their careers. This was Motorhead's 5th record. You had like the pinnacle of Ace of Spades, and then you had fans who loved that album and were expecting, like you guys just said, expecting something that was to the same caliber, which sometimes a lot of pressure, and it's hard to do that twice, especially in a row. And on this one too, the songs are shorter. Most of them cap at like 2 minutes and 40 seconds. You got a couple in there that pass the 3-minute mark, but barely. So it's kind of just really short songs. Like Pete mentioned, Eddie Clark produced it, so there was like debate on it sounded a little bit more polished than what we had seen from them before. So, I mean, I like this record. You can't deny, like I said, Motorhead and just everything that they are, compared to other 5th records by bands. I mean, this is probably, an incredible record when you look at it. For Motorhead's entire catalog, probably not really high up there for me. I have other records that I prefer to this one. But I mean, a solid record, like I said, probably better than most 5th records from bands. But like many have said, I have to go with black metal. I think that it's just an incredibly strong record, and such an influence to so many bands that came after them, like Nick was saying. Just really huge influence. They were really in the beginning of their career, they had only one album, Welcome to Hell, before that, and then it was this one, and then you're kind of getting the ball rolling there. You found your style. Now you have a second record like this one. Like Nick said as well, Countess Bathory is my favorite song off of this record. It's just killer. The title track, Buried Alive, Don't Burn the Witch. It's a really great album. And Phil from Pantera had also said that he had put this in his like top 5 essential albums of all time. So I just think you can't deny the influence. Like I said, I really think that it also, take into account where each band was in their career at this point in time. Motorhead was really, known for kind of, tail end of the 70s, early 80s, kind of had already reached a big stride by the time that this album came out. So yeah, have to go with black metal. Great record.
Nice.
The shutout continues 6-0. Venom.
Blowout.
Blowout. Mr. Canzaneri, are we going to keep this alive, or we're going to throw a wrinkle into this?
Oh, well, I got to admit, I own exactly 0 copies of black metal and 1 copy of Iron Fist. So I'm going to try to give good opinions, though. I got to say, when I was a kid, that black metal album scared the living shit out of me. I was a little 10-year-old kid. I think, 82. I was actually 13. God, okay. Well, I shouldn't have been scared of it at that age, but, my friend whips this thing out. He's like, yeah, you heard all those people saying shit about Iron Maiden and blah, 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 and the devil stuff. And this, like, check these guys out. They're really into it. So I'm looking, I flip the album over, and it's some dudes dressed in, like, Paul Stanley's old jumpsuits or whatever. But, get on the inside of the cover, and he puts it on. I'm like, holy shit, what is this? And it was the worst produced album I had heard up until that point in my life. So I was kind of like, oh, why is it so quiet? What's going on here? And I borrowed it from him. I had it for about a week, and I never ended up buying it. So I put it on today to listen, and God damn it, I know all those songs. I'm like singing on the couch. I'm like, I know all these songs. I remember all these songs from all that, 40 years ago. Heaven's on Fire. Like, is that the Kiss song? I put that on. I'm like, holy, So I listened to that today, and I'm like, geez, so I'm gonna grab 6 copies of that later.
Your gloves on
eBay, see what I could find. And I also listened to Iron Fist again today, and Iron Fist is a great track. That album's definitely a step down, like everybody said. I mean, they had a great run with Overkill and Bomber, and Ace of Spades, and then they notched down one. Good album. I'd give it like a 3.5 probably. I'd give black metal a 4.5. I like Welcome to Hell better, actually. But yeah, Venom, shutout.
Shutout continues.
So.
Wow. All righty.
Also, I just realized I forgot to give my ratings. I'd probably give the same 3.5 to Iron Fist and probably a 4.5 to black metal. I just remembered I left that out. Sorry.
I think I might have done that too. Did I give a rating, guys?
You may not have, Steven.
I don't remember.
Yeah, all right. I'll throw one up there. 3.5 for Motorhead, 5 for Venom.
All right.
I had one thing I just thought about with Fast Eddie Clark producing the album is that maybe that was like a transition from him wanting to do something with Fastway to have that more slicker production, because I mean the Fastway album definitely has a slicker production, but it's a way better album actually, you know. So I don't know if maybe it was held off a little bit on some of those tracks, because the first Fastway is really good album.
That's a good point.
It's a great album.
So
maybe
excellent.
Yeah.
Album.
So maybe there's something there that was like, you know, in mind or whatever. Like he knew, because I know there was some problems. He wasn't happy with the band after the Ace of Spades time period. So I don't know. I just thought I'd bring that up.
It was co-produced by Will Reed, who worked with Thin Lizzy. So it wasn't all just Fast Eddie, but a lot of the Fastway songs were probably ideas for the next Motorhead album. But then the whole thing with Wendy O. Williams, that whole thing went down, and Fast Eddie left, so he used those song ideas for Fastway.
Yeah, that Fastway debut is damn good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
Great
excellent.
album. Yeah.
It's really good.
All right, Mr. Scow.
All right, well, let's see what. Well, actually, speaking of production, I'll bring this up real quick because speaking of Fast Eddie, he also produced the first Tank album. Where's my fucking camera? There we go. Filth Hounds of Hades, and I think this album sounds great. It's good, raw, classic, early new wave of British heavy metal. So, just wanted to throw that in there. Man, I don't want to break the streak here, but I do love this album. I like it probably more than most of the opinions have been so far. But I almost I swore a pact I can't say anything bad about Motorhead because I love them so fucking much. But you know, they did Overkill, they did Bomber, Ace of Spades, they did this, and then they went on to do Another Perfect Day, Orgasmatron, Rock and Roll. So it's like, to me, those are just like album after album. 1916, like there's no weak albums in that whole stretch over like a 15-year period. So to pick this one out, yeah, it's not. I don't know. The title track could be my favorite Motorhead song, though. It's really every time I hear it, it's like with that first classic thrash metal sound. Man, I love it so fucking much. But and a lot of the songs in here, I'm the Doctor, Sex and Outrage, Shut It Down, Speed Freak. I really like this album. Is it as good as Ace of Spades and Overkill and Bomber? No, but I don't really consider it a huge step down. To me, it's like just like a little bit, but I do like it a lot. To say like, I haven't heard it in a while. You know, some people haven't listened to it in a while. I listen to this album on a pretty regular basis. Probably like 2 weeks ago was the last time I heard it. It had nothing to do with the show. I just like to play it a lot. I only have 2 copies of it though, CD and this vinyl. Black Metal, I have 3 copies. I do have a tape, Chris, which I could not find. It's buried in a box somewhere. I got to organize my fucking tapes. But yeah, I got this nice vinyl, which I usually play. And then I got the slipcase CD with all the bonus tracks from all the 7 inches and stuff. So every song on here, obviously, like you guys said, is a fucking classic. The title track, I mean, to me, on both of these albums, they both open with their title tracks. And to me, like those 2 tracks, you know, obviously in conjunction with some others out there, but those 2 tracks, that's like the birth of thrash metal. You know, 1982, who the hell was playing shit that fast in metal? You know, almost nobody, especially Venom. Like, I don't think there was anything back then as crazy as black metal. But every song on here is fucking awesome. Man, I couldn't even. You know what? I'm gonna have to keep going on this. Obviously, the pictures of these guys on the back is just cool as shit. But I do, you know what? I do like Welcome to Hell a little bit more. If I had to pick between Black Metal and Welcome to Hell, there's something about Welcome to Hell. It's a little more rudimentary.
But that's not the question.
I know.
Like, dude, this isn't like, do I like Star Wars better than Venom? No. Let's just stay on the path, my man. We gotta finish this episode in an hour.
We're doing good on time, Chris. We're doing good on time. So I am going to go with Black Metal too. And it pains me to say that because I really, really fucking like that Motorhead album. But and like you guys said, I like the first 3 Venom. And then after that, I just kind of whatever, you know, just some good songs. Where with Motorhead, the whole catalog is great. I don't think they ever put out a bad album.
you know, in their whole 40 plus years of existence. And I put Iron Fist pretty high on the list. If I had to list all the Motorhead albums, that one's up there for me. That's definitely in the top 5 or 6 or so. I like it that much. But yeah, I'm going black metal because, you know, I mean, like Nick said, I got a lot of fucking albums in this room. I'm going to say 90% of them would not exist without both of those bands. Because obviously, without Motorhead, Venom probably wouldn't exist.
And there'd be a lot fewer patches on your battle jacket too.
Fewer patches, a lot fewer ghosts on all these fucking CDs and vinyl. But yeah, most of my music collection owes a huge debt to Motorhead and Venom both. So, you know, it's like picking a favorite child here. But yeah, I'm going to go with Venom on this one.
All right. 8-0. We have a
Like
win
to do a
already,
rating?
even if Spaghetti and I don't even talk. But
I'll tell you what, though, for rating on these, I'm going to give Venom a 5 out of 5, and Motorhead, I like it that I'm going to give it a 4.75. I really hold that album in high regard. So, but Venom's got to take it.
Yeah, Pete. It looks like Motorhead's been mathematically eliminated.
yeah, there's no coming back here. But that's
I mean, maybe you guys should throw them some soft points. You know, like talking football now.
And cover the spread.
Somebody's got to give it. They got to get one touchdown. Come on, they got to get one score.
Spaghetti, what do you got?
Not going to deviate much from most of the commentary, honestly. Iron Fist, yeah, I think they took a little bit of a dip down compared to the other earlier records, Ace of Spades, Bomber, Overkill. This, like John said, this is a record that sort of fell through the cracks for me. I have not listened to this thing in a really, really long time. Listening to it over the last couple of days, it's better than I remembered it, but it's still not my favorite Motorhead record. It's not even in the top 5. It's not even close. I also agree the totality of these catalogs, Motorhead's is clearly a superior collection of work. I see a much better body of work. Some of the tunes on here, I think I had read somewhere that they weren't quite finished. And I think bringing up the point that maybe Fast Eddie is the producer, maybe held back a little bit for the first Fastway record, which is a damn close to a masterpiece. I love that record. But yeah, this is not this record fell through the cracks for me. I don't go to it much. I just don't go to this Motorhead record that much. I like it. It's a great record, but comparative, relative to the rest of the collection, it's not great. My favorites on it, I like Don't Need Religion, just super cool. Speed Freak, I mean, come on. And Iron Fist, the opener. Great tracks. Now, Black Metal was one of those albums, man, that changed metal for me. There's a handful of records that came out around that time, around that era. Exciter, Heavy Metal Maniac, Voivod, Roar. This out, Black Metal. I mean, it made metal heavier. They didn't even mess around. Venom did not mess around with, the overt Satanism. Everybody was kind of looking at Ozzy, and Ozzy's a bad guy, and Venom's down there going, yeah, right. Venom did not hold back on any of that, to where it almost got a little silly. It almost became a caricature later on in their career. 5 years after this record was out, it was like, well, Venom's a little silly with the over-the-top Satanism. But this thing was brutal when it first came out. I hold it in such high regard that if I have to wear a patch right here on my check, right there it is, Venom. Love this record. Not much that I could say that hasn't already been said. The opening track, Black Metal, of course, Leave Me in Hell is awesome. Countess Bathory is a classic. What I'm surprised nobody mentioned, though, is the outro on this record is the intro of the next record. Does anybody recall how that happened anywhere? Pete, in all your vast knowledge, I cannot recall a band finishing an album with the outro, which is the intro to the next album. That's clever as hell. And Venom thought of that. That's really, really cool. It's an important record for me. I think the word important is sort of grandiose in describing music, but this is because, as I mentioned, this was one of the records that took metal. I mean, this made like Iron Maiden look tame. This was really heavy. It was the earliest days of thrash. Just brutal. I love it. I would give Motorhead Iron Fist 3.5 And I would definitely give Black Metal 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5, only because the production could have been a little bit better on it. It's not a great sounding record, but the tunes are so strong. It's a great record, and it just meant a lot for me at that time. This was some of the heaviest shit out there when this thing came around. So it's brutal. So I gotta go. Venom Black Metal looks like 9 to the goose, right? 9 zip.
That is
Black
correct.
Metal.
That is correct. Venom with a clean sweep so far. Am I going to ruin the sweep? What do you think? Who's got odds on what I'm going to do here?
You're gonna ruin it.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
gonna
we'll
say no.
see. All right.
You're
So
not really-
I've listened to both of these albums, and even in recent years, quite a bit. And I will say, pretty much any day of the week, I will always choose Motorhead over Venom. But as far as these two albums go, I listened to both again today, and I will say that Iron Fist is a lot better than I used to think back in the day. And I liked it back in the day quite a bit, but I think like Ryan said, I think it's a really strong record. And even though there's things about it, it's not as kind of rough and raw as the couple that came before it, but it still kicks ass. It's still really raunchy. I love the bass and the guitars on this. They're just, in your face. And there's some really great songs in it. The title track is amazing. I love Don't Need Religion. I really like Speed Freak. America's great. Go to Hell is great. I'm the Doctor. It's a good, fun album. I wish the songs were longer. I don't mind the production of it. I think it's pretty good. It's kind of similar to Another Perfect Day, which came after it, I think. I like it a lot. I'd probably give it a solid 3.5 or 4 stars out of 5 easily. And like I said, in most cases, I would generally pick Motorhead over Venom any day. I've listened to Motorhead way more than I've listened to Venom in my life, and especially talking about the whole catalogs, like everybody said. But, the Black Metal album is pretty classic. And I think even though there are a couple tracks on Black Metal that I'm like not as crazy about compared to some of the other ones, if an album has Countess Bathory, Raise the Dead, To Hell and Back, Buried Alive on it, and Teacher's Pet, it's kind of hard to vote against it. And I will say Countess Bathory is an amazing song. It's the best Venom song ever. And it is a classic of early 80s heavy metal, extreme metal, whatever the hell you want to call it. And yeah, the playing on it leaves a little bit to be desired. Yeah, the production sucks, but that's the way it was always meant to be. And like Chris said, when I first started, I bought this album and At War with Satan. I was going to SUNY New Paltz. I was at college, and they had some guy selling records out of the Student Union building one day, and he had all these boxes of records. And I bought this, and I bought At War with Satan, and I bought like a Bernie Torme solo album and a couple other things. And I brought these 2 Venom albums back to my dorm room, and I put them on, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, I don't know if I want to listen to this anymore. Holy cow, this is some scary ass shit. But over time, you just realize how cool this stuff is. And like Spaghetti said, a couple of years later, I think the overt satanic nature of some of these early albums kind of, all of a sudden it wasn't scary anymore. And all of a sudden it was kind of like, all right, it's kind of like, this was a little different than I think, Merciful Fate and King Diamond, who really believed in all that stuff. These guys were just like, all right, this is our thing. This is our shtick. And we worked it, and that's totally cool. But I'm going to go with Black Metal.
Wipeout.
Pretty close. But I like both of these albums quite a bit. But Black Metal, it has the stronger tracks overall, I think, and that's what it kind of came down for me. There's about 4 or 5 songs on Black Metal that I think are just untouchable, as great as some of the songs on the Motorhead album are. But if this was any other of the Motorhead albums that came before it, which it's not, I know Chris already brought that up before, I might be singing a different tune. But Black Metal is the winner here, not just for me, but it seems like everybody else on the panel. So an absolute clean sweep.
Somebody's got to get a broom. Or who's got the broom?
Sweet.
0.
Well, the roughness of Black Metal is part of the charm of that whole thing. It's like you take that away, and that wouldn't have been the album that it was. So it's like, yeah, it's rough. Yeah, I mean, they're not like the greatest musicians technically that you've ever heard, but I mean, they put it together in a way where it was real and authentic, and if you took that away, it wouldn't have been the same. So.
Yep.
And you know,
You
quite
guys-
frankly, neither of these bands were the greatest musicians on the planet. This
No.
band,
Motorhead
these bands
wasn't
had
either,
so
yeah.
much in common, really. I mean, these are like the heavy bands for the common man, and they weren't out there trying to play all these great guitar solos and do all this really complicated stuff. They just were loud in your face, and they were proud of it. That's I think what is the charm of both of them, right?
Yeah, they were two different, the vocalists, you know, what do you call it? Lemmy and Kronos. They're both bad vocalists. They're so bad they're good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they're good because they're bad. Like
Yeah.
it fucking works.
Well, like Steve, like Mantis said on the show you did, if you took all those songs, and he was talking about Welcome to Hell, but it applies to this. If you took all those songs, you gave it to a very proper, polished band with a $1 million studio, it would not have fucking worked. It would not have been the same thing, and probably no, you know, it would have been it would not have been the same thing, and I don't think anybody would have cared. You know, it would have been just
And
some other.
he also mentioned, Ryan, that it's not an album he would want to go back. Well, we were talking about Welcome to Hell, but he doesn't want to go back and redo any of this stuff.
You couldn't.
The way it was, yeah.
Lightning in a bottle. It was totally lightning in a bottle with that stuff.
Yep.
Raw, it's powerful, it's raw, it was offensive. Like Pete said, it's 1981. Anybody now goes, an album about, you know, Satan or something. There's been a million of them out.
Right.
But back then, it was offensive because there was nothing like it, pretty much.
It was totally
groundbreaking.
overt too. Everybody was just being a little suggestive about Satanism, and these guys were just in your face with it.
Same thing with Merciful Fate when they came out.
Yeah.
I remember friends going, "What the fuck are they talking about?" You know, and going to see
What
King
about Iron
Diamond
Maiden?
and Upside Down Crosses and, you know, and whatever else. So it was groundbreaking.
Maiden on Live After Death, almost like apologizing before they did Number of the Beast, saying, "No, we are not a satanic band."
Well, it got less scary, like Pete said. I mean,
Yeah, you got used to it.
more people
It
were
actually
doing
got
it,
silly,
you know?
if you ask me. After a while, 5 years after, this is just kind of almost silly, like
Yeah, well,
almost
then
gimmicky.
you had bands like you know, it was kind of like this occult thing. Obviously, that was kind of the rarity. And then you had bands eventually like Motley Crue that had pentagrams on their album covers. You know what I mean? And so it's like it I don't want to
That's a whole nother.
dare I say mainstream, but you know, kind of went
Became
into that.
cool. It became cool
Yeah.
to promote
It
evil
looked
music.
cool.
Yeah.
It's a whole
Yeah.
nother. It's a whole
Well,
nother
you did have a
topic.
bunch of kids in Norway who took that shit a little
A
bit
little-
too
little
serious.
too serious.
Yeah.
A little bit too
But
serious.
I'm
There was
glad they
nothing-
did.
There was nothing gimmicky about that.
But
No,
a
they made
lot of
good
that
music
has
too.
to do, a lot of that perception with Satanism and all that has a lot to do with where it's coming from and who's absorbing it. Because
Yeah.
as far as the kids in Norway, they were rural, they were isolated. The world was so much, people, you know, a lot of people don't realize just how isolated everything was. Well, many of you lived through it, and Sydney's just smart enough as a young person to know. But a lot of people in this latest generation don't understand quite how isolated the world was. So when you heard something like that, you begged, borrowed, and stealed to get it. You have no idea the conditions, what's in their heads when they're hearing that. And then you look at everybody in, like, you know, Latin America and parts of Asia and places where religion is so much more enforced, that, you know, what might be silly to somebody living a upper middle class life in England or America, oh, it's upside down crosses, haha. But if you're living in a theocracy and you could get arrested for listening to it, like it held, I think the Satanism aspect of things has held up in certain areas of the world.
Look at what the guy from Behemoth is going through. He can't set foot back in Poland because he's being charged with blasphemy, like formally charged by the government.
Right.
Nurgle.
Right.
You know, he can't go to Poland right now.
Right.
Crazy.
So
Wow.
It's crazy.
So
Crazy.
yeah.
But I think those Norwegian kids, they all wanted to be more badass than the Swedish kids doing death metal. I'm like, well, check this shit out. Like, you know, you guys sound pretty tough. I burned down a church last week, so eat me.
Definitely some one-upmanship there. That's for sure.
Didn't Venom redo some of their old catalog? Because I heard a redo of Manitou, which was on, I believe, the Warhead EP, and it was really well produced and really good. Like
They
really
did on the
good.
Cast of Stone album. It was a
Right,
second
right,
CD,
right.
had
Yeah.
like
Cast
bunch
of
of
Stone
classic
album,
tracks
yeah.
were done. They actually did
Like
sound
10
good, I
songs were
thought.
recorded.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It wasn't
A
a
lot
bad.
of
That
songs sounded good.
Stone wasn't bad. That was like 96, I think that came out.
Yeah.
95, 96. That was a
96.
pretty good album. That was the
Oh,
last
yeah.
one they did with the three of them, and then they
Yeah,
fucked off
three.
again. Like,
Cool. All right. Well, we have a shutout. So Venom Black Metal has destroyed Motorhead Iron Fist 10-0. But of course, we want to hear from all of you watching. So in the comments below, please let us know which album you favor, the Motorhead album or the Venom album. We'll see how it does in the comments. Here on the panel, though, we all voted for Venom. So we'll see how everybody handles these two albums down below. And we want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Steve, we got you out early, Steve, so you can go.
Yeah, you're doing all right. It's too interesting to go watch the game. It'll still be on.
under an
the-
hour, Chris. Under an hour. We're at 55 minutes.
Yes.
There you go.
And
Chris, you can go make your cookies now. You got the gloves on and everything. You're good
That's
to
true.
go.
Ran out
Finish
the
murdering someone.
There you go.
and
All
Butch
right.
Jones has never heard Venom Black Metal, which I find unbelievable. That he's had to heard these songs. He's had to hear it.
Who knows? Who
Too
knows?
busy listening for. He's too busy waiting for that John Sykes fucking record, which is never gonna come out. So.
Which may never-
Spawn wait.
Anyway,
happened.
thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Stay tuned for another episode next Monday night with the crew. So from Ralph and John and Steve and Nick and Chris and Sydney and Chris and Ryan and Spaghetti, I am P. Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Woo!
Later.
Woohoo!